to the Republic of Middle-Aged Men. We are back. We are up to episode 2 of working through Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. And as usual, we'll kick off our show by saying hello and what are you drinking? So, Lachlan, welcome.
Thanks, mate. On my father-in-law's old special, which was Kraken rum with a Christmas spiced ginger beer, which I've been hoarding some of these old Christmas ginger beers.
It's quite a flagon you get there, man. Is that a pint glass?
It's because it's a one of those Bundaberg things. You can't reseal the ginger beer once you open. So you got to make a full size one, mate. You don't do it by half.
Does that mean it's double spiced? Because you've got the Kraken rum and then spiced ginger beer.
Yeah, it's a nice combo. Let me tell you.
I didn't know there was spiced ginger beer for Christmas. Did you know this, Ruben?
Oh yeah, it's amazing. I didn't know you didn't know that was a thing.
I found out. I feel like I just found out the internet was a thing.
You probably didn't know about it because when you come to my place, I never have it because there's too much sugar in it. But yeah.
Well, that sounds awesome. What are you drinking there, Ruben?
Unfortunately, it's just Kahlua and milk because that was all that was left in the pantry. So it's a bit crap. But what are you gonna do?
Oh no! You better hope the zombie apocalypse doesn't hit this week, otherwise you're gonna be in trouble.
I've thought about this, and if there's a zombie apocalypse, I won't be drinking because you want to be sharp, man.
Wow.
You'd be like the guy in was that movie Zombieland, and he had all the rules for zombie life. He's like, rule number 1 was it like stretch and like do cardio? I think was the deal.
Cardio's in there. Yeah. Well, I'm drinking Better beer, and I bought it because it reminds me of my parents' caravan interior from the 1970s.
Yeah, that's a retro label, man. I like the colours.
Super retro, yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that was good. And it actually is quite good.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Bonus.
Surprisingly. Okay, let's jump in. No, I dropped my thingamajiggy. I dropped a, I have a bookmark. Well, it's not a bookmark. I'll show you my bookmark. Here's my bookmark.
It's a bottle opener.
A bottle opener. And it fell out of my book onto the keyboard and made it change cameras. That's why my camera went weird all of a sudden. That was strange.
This is the level of professionalism.
Rookie mistakes. Yeah, rookie mistakes.
From the
all right. Games. Okay, so I'll read this and then we'll go from there. No, let's not do it that way. Let's do it this way. Okay. So this is number 11 from book 1. From Fronto, I learned to observe what envy, duplicity, and hypocrisy are in a tyrant, and that generally those among us who are called patricians, is that the right way to say that? I'm not sure, are rather deficient in paternal affection. Interesting. Rather deficient in paternal affection. Right, so now we understand why his son was such a shocker.
You're going to have to explain that paragraph to me. I got nothing out of that.
So to observe what envy, duplicity, and hypocrisy are in a tyrant. So that was what he learnt from...
Oh, okay. It doesn't really say what he learnt, just that he learnt that.
Yeah, so it's like this guy taught him what not to be. But that generally those amongst us who are called patricians... Am I saying that right? Patricians?
Patricians.
Patricians?
Well, I don't know what they are. They're like a political rank, I think, in his time. I don't know how far up the totem pole they were in terms of political rank. Might have to Google that one.
We shall.
There were a group of wealthy landowning families that made up political, religious, and military leadership of Rome.
Oh, there you go.
Right.
So upper
Ah,
class.
there you go. And the term patrician comes from the Latin word patre, meaning father, right? So that's,
Yeah.
I guess that's where they're saying that paternal affection's missing from someone named father. So maybe I think he's sort of saying that they're supposed to be, looking after the citizens as though a father would look after their children, and perhaps that's lacking in in these people since they're Hippocratic. Hypocritical and
So them basically them rich influential people weren't really they weren't good. They didn't really care about the people below them. Is what he's saying, really.
hmm,
Yeah, right.
right, yeah.
I like the
Have we lost
title.
him?
I think we've lost him. How's it still going?
I don't know.
It's his program. Look at
I'm
this.
still here. I had to make a hardware adjustment.
Oh.
Sorry. Yeah, there was a. I just realised that there was a problem with my. I'm using this ancient Mac, as you guys know, which I'm going to upgrade very soon, and it was just giving me error codes everywhere. I was like, "Oh, quick, fix it." So it's all good.
Good job for the cutting.
No, that's all good. We'll leave it in there. Makes it more authentic. Um, I don't want to. I don't want to be a sophist. I want people to see what we really do. I want the truth to set us free. It's so good.
I like this next bloke's name.
You what? Sorry. What'd you say?
I like the next bloke, next paragraph. I like this bloke's name.
So. Are we ready to jump on the 12? Are we?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Interesting. Okay. Oh yes. Okay. Book 112. From Alexander the Platonist, not to say to anyone frequently or without necessity, or to write in a letter, that I have no time to spare, nor continually to excuse the neglect of duties required by our relation to those with whom we live, by claiming to have more urgent business.
How many people, are us included, are guilty of that one, hey?
Yeah, methinks that's a pretty common fault, if it is one. I suppose it is. It's a form of dishonesty, isn't it?
Yeah, you're just making weak excuses for the fact you haven't done something you're supposed to do.
It kind of made me think of that Monty Python sketch where the guy's writing the location of the Holy Grail on the wall, and then writes as he dies. It's like if you're writing like I am so busy, I'm so busy I don't really have time to write this letter. However, you've just wasted a minute writing that. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. Ruben, would you like to be henceforth known as Ruben the Platonist?
What are you trying to say?
I don't know. I just
Saying
liked
I
that
like
name. You like that name? My nickname
I
on
do
Zoom
like
is Timbo the Sophist. I mean, you might like Ruben the
I might
Platonist.
change one to that. Yeah, I might go with that.
Nice. We just got to find Lachlan one now.
I'm sure something appropriate will come to mind sooner or later.
So, I like the second half, not to continually excuse the neglect of duties required by our relation to those with whom we live. So, that's interesting. Like, not saying I'm so busy I don't have time to be a good dad, or I'm so busy I don't have good time to be a good husband, or whatever.
Yeah, and it's an acknowledgement that you have responsibility to other people.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a
good.
full. It's like a ancient Roman cats in the cradle. You know, like.
Nice. Hadn't thought of that.
I Cat Stevens reference. I don't know how many people get that these days.
I'm sure. Well, this is the Republic of Middle-aged Men, right? So
This is true. Yeah. Well, 13 might give us a clue from Catalysts in the Cradle. Here we go.
One.
Book 1, 13. From Catalysts, not to be indifferent when a friend finds fault, even if he should find fault without reason, but to try to restore him to his usual disposition, and to be ready to speak well of teachers, as it is reported of Domitius and Anthenotitus, and to love my children truly. Alright, let's break that down. So the first one is not to be indifferent when a friend finds fault, even if he should find fault without reason, but to try and restore him to his usual disposition. Is that a fancy way of saying to be a peacemaker?
Yeah, I suppose. But what's interesting about it is, like, even if they're unreasonably criticizing you, it's not good just to ignore it. You're best to make things right. Yeah, I guess being a peacemaker. Yeah.
Yeah, but also like take it on board. I think when your friend is pointing something out, don't brush them just because they're your mate. You know what I mean? And you can kind of get away with it. Maybe is part of that.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Because like I don't know. Me personally, like I'm quite happy to get criticism and feedback. Right.
Mm.
I can take it on. I'm not too egotistical about it. But I know lots of people, like if you even give a hint of like something, even if it's like super constructive and not, not really that critical, people get their backs up real hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, even if it's your mate, I think it's, don't dismiss it, try and restore them back to the way they feel, talk it out maybe.
Mm.
I think that's interesting.
I'm guilty of the next bit, to be ready to speak well of teachers. I was just talking to my son today about how I wasn't very good at that at times in high school, because he's having problems with a teacher right now. And, yeah.
Sometimes wisdom comes with age, hey Tim?
Look, I can't even say I would do better now. It's still a really big part of my personality that would just want to go to war with that person. But yeah, I'm trying to show my son that this is something I'm not particularly good at. So, think about different strategies that, what would Dad do? Let's not do that one. Maybe that's a good way to think about it. Well, how did you guys go with teachers in high school?
I was pretty compliant, to be honest, so I didn't have too much. I was an under the radar kind of guy, not causing trouble, just getting on with it.
How about you, Ribs?
I don't know. I to this day still think that high school was a bit of a waste of time. Like, I'm sure there was some useful stuff in there, but I reckon a good percentage of it was a waste of time. And
I feel the same way.
Yeah, like my eldest is in high school, and I look at some of the stuff he learns, and I'm like, I think this is a waste of time. Like, there's no fundamentals there. But anyway, that's just a old man whinge.
That's a whole nother show. Yeah. I remember you weren't one of the naughty kids from memory, Ruben. I remember one or two highlights, but I think in general you're pretty good.
Yeah, I was a good kid.
Alright, and the last part, I think we all do pretty well, to love our children truly. So that's good.
No, good advice.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's some good how to mend ideas for us. Take criticism on board. Keep your mates as mates. Speak well of those in authority who are trying to teach. And love your kids.
That's all good stuff you can use for sure.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah.
Alright, let's read number 14. From my brother, Severus, to love my kin, and to love truth, and to love justice. And through him I learned to know Thrasea, Helvidius, Cato, Dio, Brutus. And from him I received the idea of a political state in which there is the same law for all, one administered with regard to equal rights and equal freedom of speech, and the idea of a kingly government which respects most of all the freedom of the governed. I learned from him also consistency and undeviating steadfastness in my regard for philosophy, and a disposition to do good, and to give to others readily, and to cherish good hopes, and to believe that I am loved by my friends. And in him I observe no attempt to conceal his opinions with respect to those of whom he disapproved, and that his friends had no need to speculate about what he wished or did not wish, but it was quite plain. Damn.
Yeah, that's meaty.
Severus sounds like quite a guy. Well, let's work through that checklist.
The pre-Harry Potter days.
Yes, I did see Severus and Snape came to mind. Alright, so let's work through that. So, to love my kin. Sometimes it's hard to love your kin.
I think anyway, you're gonna get some challenge, right? Whether it's family or friends, right?
Yeah. The next one, to love truth. That's something I have found that since I've always had a strong moral compass and a sense of right and wrong, but since I've been reading Plato, that has taken on so much more clarity of what that means, and it's something that I intentionally try to do a lot more than I used to. I'm not sure if that's been the case for you guys.
I don't know that I've learnt that from what we've been doing, but when I was a little kid, I was a big fan of a tall tale, and so I used to come up with some some whoppers here and there, and I can remember some of those lies as a kid snowballing into like a lie on top of a lie on top of a lie, right? Not about big things, like it was just about dumb stuff. But I can remember how that used to make you feel, like when you sort of felt trapped by your own lies, right?
Yeah.
And I think that I don't know. I guess maybe it was a good lesson to learn early on, but I've tried, I suppose, from the time I sort of realised that, maybe as a, I don't know, teenager, early teens or something like that, and I just sort of stopped doing it. I don't know why it took me a little while, but I don't know. I used to come up with some like really just absolute BS when I was younger. I don't know why.
Yeah. Testing the limits,
Love the
maybe?
tall tale. Yeah, I really don't know. I don't know, but yeah, it's just a funny thing sometimes the kids do. But yeah, I did that as a kid, and yeah, from probably my teenage years, I kind of worked that out, and I try to always be truthful, and I just find it's they say like the truth will set you free, and it really does, like just lifts a weight off you, and so that's why I do that. But that's through bad experience as a kid.
Fair enough. How about you, Rubes?
Oh, I think it's a good way to characterize it, to actually love truth. Like, it's a little bit different from just wanting to know the truth for one reason or another. Like, I mean, you could want to know the truth because of what it can get you. Like, you might want to know the truth about something because it'll get you power over someone, or you might want to know the truth of something because it'll feed your ego. But to actually love the truth, I think, is a different proposition. I think the idea being that if you love something, you're going to put it first, whether it be good or bad for you personally. So I think, obviously, I think it's a good idea, but there's something in that to say that to love truth rather than just want to know it for some reason or another.
Yep. That's a good way of putting it.
You probably say the same thing for the next thing, to love justice.
Yeah, for justice, yeah.
Well, that's obviously something that I've thought a lot more about since reading The Republic.
I want to reread The Republic now that it's been a few years. I'm feeling like I feel like if I read it again now, after we've done all this other reading that we've collectively done, as well as what I've individually done, I feel like the volume of gold that I'm going to find in there is going to be so much more.
Oh, I have no doubt that's the case. I've dipped back into it here and there, not from cover to cover, but yeah, I 100% think it'll be the case.
Yeah. I'd love to do a Republic of Middle-Aged Men production movie of that book. I think that would be fun.
Well, I'll
But
put this. So I've said this to you before, and I'm sure there's smarter people than us that have thought of it. I don't know why there's not like a digest, Reader's Digest version of it for kids.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. I think I'd love to do it. I'd love to do it at a Sizzler buffet or something like that, and have Socrates wearing Crocs, and probably one of those Udi poncho things. I feel like that's what he'd be walking around in these days, a big Udi with Crocs.
I can see it.
You're going to be dressed like the dude from Big Lebowski.
I could be, yeah,
It could be the other way.
yeah.
Or you just see him there in the hoodie and go, man, have you got pants on? He's like, maybe. Life's a mystery.
Oh dear. Um, all right, cool. Let's keep going. I don't know who any of these people are. Do you guys know who Thracia, Horvidius, Cato, Dio, and Brutus? Like, is he meaning Brutus who assassinated Caesar, or is he meaning some other Brutus?
Yeah, I
No,
don't know.
they're just his buds, man. Oh wait, I suppose help to understand. So they must be people that he read. I don't know.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess we don't know that. Don't know the answer to that one.
I'm happy to not know. I feel like we'll come across it later if we need to.
Yeah, 100%.
Alright, the next part is very interesting. So, from him I received the idea of a political state in which there is the same law for all, one administered with regard to equal rights and equal freedom of speech, and the idea of a kingly government which respects most of all the freedom of the governed.
Yeah, this is pretty interesting, actually, because I must admit, like, in hearing that, and I was like wondering, you know, where did the first instance of like freedom of speech actually come about? Like that as a concept,
Yeah.
because I think like that. What's that?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, because like you're thinking about like from ancient times where there had been obviously like a lot of tyrants, a lot of kings, and all this sort of thing where the king or the tyrant was above the law, generally speaking. So it wouldn't have been like one law for everybody. It'd be a law for everybody, and then like a law for the boss, right? And
Yep.
then probably no freedom of speech either, because if you speak ill of the tyrant or the king or what have you, you're probably going to lose your head or something, So it's an interesting concept. This is obviously coming after the time of Socrates and all this sort of stuff, though, right? And so, like they have had I suppose, a government of the people, and so they have had some democracy, well, versions of. So I guess like the idea of the Senate and all that sort of thing is, where in Rome, where they've got the senators getting up and speaking their piece. So I guess that's kind of part of it. But I just wonder where it started. Very curious.
Yeah. I'm not sure, but it is good to know that it was there, and it's interesting that a guy that becomes emperor goes in with that sort of thought process, and maybe even a goal, you could call it.
Yeah, and to see the value in it, I think is really interesting, because you could understand the value as a citizen, but as the leader, to still value freedom of speech when people can be critical of you, or questioning what you're doing and all that sort of thing, you might start to go, oh, do I really care about this freedom of speech thing so much, or should I just, squash those, opinions I don't like, elbow. Um, so
Yeah, let's not make any memes appear. Oh my gosh. Um,
well, I just mean that just speaks to the guy's character, right?
it
If,
does.
if
Yeah.
yeah, if he's emperor and he still values the opinion of all other people um, while he's at the top, then that's pretty amazing.
The interesting part there for me is that he characterizes government being their role being to value the liberty of their subjects or the freedom of the subject. That seems to be a lost idea these days. I don't know. I don't know. I kind of get the impression if you ask people what the role of government is these days, you wouldn't get a coherent answer out of most people. But I don't think, funnily enough, I don't think that would be the first thing that they would say is the job of the government to protect your freedoms. I just don't think it would anymore, which is, I think, pretty sad. But
Well, I think that people are pretty jaded too about feeling that their members of parliament are necessarily representing their ideas and standing up for things that are important to them.
well, I think that's probably because they don't to start with, but also like what are you trying to achieve? What I think if somebody's in government, they should at least know what their role is. And I think the people being governed should probably know what the goal of the government is too. But I don't think I think a lot of people in and outside of government can't even answer that question.
That's true.
Question, but
Yeah.
I think Robin Williams many years ago had a funny little observation, which was I think he wishes that the politicians were like NASCAR drivers and wore their sponsors on the back of their jackets so you knew who was paying for them.
yeah, it'd be more honest.
I think they would need a bigger shirt. All right, let's keep going. This is interesting. I learned from him also consistency and undeviating steadiness in my regard for philosophy. To me, that's like as he got busier, eye on the prize still, keep focusing on the study of philosophy.
On the love of wisdom.
Yeah.
I just point that out because he's already said love of truth and love of justice. And I think the actual translation of the word philosophy is love of wisdom.
Yeah, true. Yeah. We'll keep going because I think we've kind of captured that. A disposition to do good and to give to others readily, and to cherish good hopes and believe that I am loved by my friends. I don't know if you guys know about him, but there was a time where Rome was getting hit by plague, and he sold all of the valuables from the palace to then invest that money back into the city and like to get the best healers and doctors and all that sort of stuff in. So to me, like that demonstrated that he believed that. He was willing to part with his wealth and the wealth of the crown to help people. So, which again probably wasn't very common back in the day.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I think
the
it's
next bit. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think that's the thing. Like you can tell when he's writing or speaking, it's not like none of this stuff he's writing down is for the purpose of anybody else, right? Because he's actually doing and living what he's talking about here. Like it's quite interesting, like how transparent this guy is, and
Yeah, well, I don't think he ever really thought anyone would ever see it. It was just his journal. So, I look at this as like it was his self reflection, or you know, like Jordan Peterson does the personality course, where you write about
Sure.
your past and then your future, and helps you sort of figure out who you are. I feel like he's doing that sort of exercise where he's reflecting on his past, where he got to where he is, and all that sort of thing.
I just think it's just pretty interesting that he's honest with himself though as well, because I think like a lot of people actually aren't honest with themselves,
Yeah,
and maybe try and set themselves up as though they're doing something that's maybe it's a bit more aspirational, right, than what you're actually sort of doing. It's just interesting, is the stuff he writes about it for himself, he's actually out there doing it. So
yeah.
he's sort of a man of his word, which is pretty cool.
I think the next part is like an antidote to tyranny. So he talks about cherishing good hopes and believing that he is loved by friends. I think one of the first things that happens to a leader when they're on the path of the tyranny is they stop trusting those around them and start thinking that they're going to cause them harm and do evil. And so to me, it seems like it's an intentional decision to cherish good hopes and believe that your friends love you, so then you don't end up in that tyrannical headspace.
Yeah,
That's
you
probably
could be
why he
right.
was a good emperor for the whole time he was emperor.
Mm.
Yeah,
So I think it was in when we were reading Republic. They're talking about the guys who sort of like lead into tyranny because they've got so much pursuit of power, that they sort of inevitably end up into a space where they're suspicious of everybody, that they're out for their power and stuff, and then can't trust anyone. So
yeah.
you're right. It's just something to keep him on the path.
And the last part, I would translate that he learnt to call a spade a spade.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Um, yeah, give your opinion clearly, make it not a mystery, very transparent. It's good. I've found when I've led teams in work over the years, transparency is a really big part of making a successful team. So I don't know I don't recall where I got it from, but I just started saying truth plus transparency equals trust. And if you get those three T's, you will succeed. And that was how I used to run my teams. So no matter like how bad the truth was, you tell everyone this is what's actually real, this is the truth, and we be transparent about that. And as long as we're all truthful and transparent with each other, we get trust, and then we can succeed together. So I think this is a similar sort of idea.
A good way to operate, I reckon.
It's risky, because you expose everything you do wrong in good faith. Every time you forget to do something, you put your hand up. I forgot to do that. My fault.
Yep.
But it makes you do better because you don't want to be that guy too many times. So, particularly when you're running the thing.
No, for sure.
I reckon you can do 1 to everyone else's 10 and keep their respect. But if you start doing 10 to everyone else's 1, you're gone. Nice. All right, let's keep going. 15. So from Maximus, I learned self-mastery and not to be led aside by anything, cheerfulness in all circumstances, as well as in illness, and a good mixture of gentleness and dignity in one's character, and to do what was set before me without complaining. I noticed that everybody believed that what he said was what he thought, and that in all that he did, he never had any bad intentions, and he never showed amazement and surprise, and was never in a hurry, and never put off doing a thing, nor was perplexed, nor dejected, nor did he ever laugh to disguise his vexation, nor, on the other hand, was he ever passionate or suspicious. He was accustomed to perform acts of kindness, and was ready to forgive, and was free from all falsehood. And he gave the appearance of a man who could not be diverted from the right path, rather than of a man who had to be set right by others. I observed too that no man could ever think that he was looked down upon by Maximus, or ever venture to think himself a better man. He had also the art of being humorous in an agreeable way. What a dude Maximus sounds like.
Yeah, it sounds like a good guy.
Maximus Manmus. He sounds like a beast.
Yeah, totally.
What a great mentor. Like, if you just had that guy as your mentor, you would be like, man, I've been so blessed to have that mentor. But you look at, this is like point 15. Look at all the other mentors this guy had. It takes many good influences to make a great emperor, apparently.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
I think we've covered some of these principles in previous points already from other guys that he's learnt the lessons from, but is there any in there that sort of stands out to you guys? I mean, one that sort of stood out to me was like not complaining with anything that puts in front of him. But also that he never showed amazement or surprise.
Yeah,
it seems like he was like just a rock. This guy must have been just.
He just must live in that stoic life, and
Yeah.
It is what it is. So why would I get surprised at it? You know what I mean? I don't think I could do that. I'm still going to get surprised, but but I think you go, Rich.
No, it's just, to me, it's just a description of a good demeanor, like, how to present yourself. Yeah, if you can manage it, like you say, well, that's easier said than done.
I like that part of the goodness is that he was accustomed to performing acts of kindness and quick to forgive. So he's kind, gentle, stable.
Well, it sounds like a description of humility.
Yeah. I like the description of humor. Humorous in an agreeable way. I don't know what that means as an Australian. I don't think we know what that means.
I think we're always
hardly ever agreeable.
It's totally agreeable. You just got to know how to take us. That's all. Yeah. No, I like the bit about the cheerfulness in all circumstances, because I guess it's something I like to try and be, and like I'm a kind of glass half full kind of guy. So I'll try and find the good in a situation, or the learning from a bad situation, or whatever it is, and I think it's a useful thing. There's a lot of people who are like pretty staunch pessimists in the world, and that's why I think somebody who will stand out maybe if they can kind of like maintain that disposition even in adversity, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Not to make light of adversity, but just to keep your head, keep cool, and focus on what you got to do without being an asshole.
Yep. All right. Well, in the spirit of continuing to get through this book, let's move on to 16. I think the approach of just commenting on what's independent from what we've previously read from the other mentors and influences in his life is probably a good approach for the rest of this book. So we'll go into 16 here. So book 1:16. In my adoptive father, the Emperor Antonius Pius, I observed mildness of temper and unchangeable resolution in the things which he had determined after due deliberation, and no vanity regarding those things which men call honours, and a love of hard work and perseverance, and readiness to listen to those who had anything to propose for the common good, and undeviating firmness in giving to every man according to his deserts, and knowing from experience when to undertake action vigorously and when to relax. I observed that he had overcome all passions for boys, and he considered himself no more than any other citizen, and he released his friends from all obligation to dine with him or to attend him when he travelled, and those who had failed to accompany him by reason of any urgent circumstances always found him the same. I also observed this habit of careful inquiry in all matters of deliberation, and his persistence, and that he never stopped in his investigation through being satisfied with appearances which first present themselves, and that his disposition was to keep his friends, and not to become quickly tired of them, nor to be extravagant in his displays of affection, and to be satisfied on all occasions and cheerful, and to anticipate events in the distant future, and to provide for the smallest without display, and immediately to put a stop to popular applause and all flattery, and to be constantly watchful over the things which were necessary for the administration of the empire, and to be a good manager of public expenditure, and patiently endure the blame which he got for such conduct. He was neither superstitious with respect to the gods, nor did he court men by gifts or by trying to please them, or by flattering the populace, but he showed sobriety in all the things, and firmness, and never any mean thoughts or action, nor love of novelty for its own sake. And the things which contributed in any way to life's comfort, and of which fortune gives an abundant supply, he used without arrogance and without apology, so that when he had them, he enjoyed them without affectation. And when he did not have them, he did not desire them. No one could ever say of him that he was either a sophist, or a servile, or a pedant, but everyone acknowledged him to be a man of maturity and accomplishment, above flattery, able to manage his own and other men's affairs. Besides this, he honoured those who were true philosophers, and he did not reproach those who pretended to be philosophers, nor yet was he easily led by them. He was also natural in conversation, and he made himself agreeable without any offensive affectation. He took appropriate care of his body's health, not like one who is overly attached to life, nor out of personal vanity, nor yet in a careless way, but so that, through his own attention, he very seldom stood in need of the aid of physicians, or of medicine, or external treatment. He was most ready to give way without envy to those who possess any particular ability, such as that of eloquence or knowledge of the law or of morals, or of anything else, and he gave them his help, so that each might enjoy reputation according to his deserts. And he always respected the institutions of his country without any affectation of doing so. Further, he was not fond of change, nor unsteady, but he loved to stay in the same places, and to engage himself in the same activities, and after being seized by his headaches, he came back immediately fresh and vigorous to his usual occupations. His secrets were very few and exceptional, and only about public matters, and he showed prudence and economy in the exhibition of public spectacles and the construction of public buildings, his donations to the people, and in such things, for he was a man who looked to what ought to be done, not to the reputation which is obtained by one's acts. He did not bathe at inappropriate hours. He was not fond of constructing buildings, nor fussy about what he ate, nor about the texture and colour of his clothes, nor about the beauty of his slaves. His clothing came from Lorium, his villa on the coast, and from Lanuvium generally. We know how he behaved to the toll collector at Tusculum, who asked his pardon, and such was his behaviour in general. There was in him nothing harsh, nor implacable, nor violent, nor, as one may say, anything carried to the sweating point. But he examined all things individually, as if he had plenty of time, and without confusion, in a methodical way, vigorously and consistently. And that might be said of him which is recorded of Socrates, that he was able to both abstain from and enjoy those things which many are too weak to abstain from and cannot enjoy without excess. But to be strong enough both to bear the one and to be sober in the other is the mark of a man who has a perfect and invincible soul, such as he showed in the illness of Maximus. Big part for the adoptive father there.
I probably shouldn't say this because I don't really know what it means to bathe at inappropriate hours, but I just think that would be a great thing for your gravestone. He was not one to bathe at inappropriate hours. Finn.
Yes.
It must be implying surely there was some dodgy activities that would happen at the bathhouse after hours.
Yeah, that was what I was guessing, but I don't really
Hmm.
know. It seems like a really funny thing to point out. I guess it was significant for some reason.
Is this like the equivalent of, people would write things on the public toilet door, meet me here after XYZ? Was that something that came from the ancient Roman baths or something?
Maybe.
Look, you can tell from reading that the respect and admiration he had for his adoptive father, and obviously left a very a big mark on him as far as setting a benchmark for what he needed to achieve in order to try and meet his father's measure, I suppose.
Yeah, well, I don't know how these were collected or whether they're in a specific order, but they appear. So I'm wondering if he wrote them in this order, but he seems to be working upwards because next after this he goes to talk about what he learnt from the gods. So he's, if that's the case, then he's, they're becoming more and more important in terms of their influence because the second one before gods is his adopted father, and as Tim pointed out, like the Maximus bloke sounds like a legend, and he was like sort of not mentioned until paragraph 15, but it sounds like he's going up the scale.
Yeah, I think so.
I think you might be right.
But then again, that could just be whoever collected these and translated them decided to put them in that order. We don't really know, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they sort of compiled this. If it's sort of in the original order in which he wrote them, or they're all just kind of like separate thoughts that have been compiled together and thrown in the book.
Yeah. Either or, but yeah, you're right. It seems like his adopted father had a pretty big impact. He learned a lot from him.
Heck of a dude.
Yes. Well, the Stoic virtues are wisdom, courage, temperance, and moderation. So to me, it feels like Marcus is saying he pretty much does all those things.
Yeah.
And it even ends on moderation, talking about being able to enjoy things not to the extreme and also not at all.
Yeah, absolutely. That's probably something that is noteworthy of that time, because I think there were a lot of indulgences and excesses at the height of Rome, and so you probably would have stood out, which is maybe why it made such an impression.
Anything else we want to comment on before we move on to 17? 17 is the last one for book 1, and then I think we'll head to the pub philosophers after that. And
No,
that's book 1.
Let's go.
Nothing else
17.
from 16?
No, go for it.
Cool, alright. 17. Hang on, I just need to cough for a second. There we go. 17. To the gods I am indebted for having good grandfathers, good parents, a good sister, good teachers, good associates, good kinsmen and friends, nearly everything good. Further, I owe it to the gods that I did not rush into any offence against any of them, though I had a tendency which, if the opportunity had arisen, might have led me to do something of this kind. But through their favour, there never was a set of circumstances which might put me to the test. Further, I am thankful to the gods that I was not brought up with my grandfather's concubine any longer than I was, and that I preserved the flower of my youth, and that I did not prove my virility before the proper age, but even deferred the time, that I was subject to a ruler and a father who was able to take away all conceit from me, and to help me realize that it is possible for a man to live in a palace without wanting either guards or fancy clothing, or torches and statues, and such things for show. That it is in such a man's power to bring himself very close to the lifestyle of a private citizen, without being for this reason either meaner in thought or more remiss in action, with respect to the things which must be done for the public interest in a manner that befits a ruler. I thank the gods for giving me such an adoptive brother, Lucius Verus, who was able by his moral character to rouse me to vigilance over myself, and who at the same time pleased me by his respect and affection, that my children have not been slow nor physically deformed, that I did not become more proficient in rhetoric, poetry, and other studies, in which I should perhaps have been completely engaged if I had seen that I was making progress, that I made haste to place those teachers who brought me up in positions of honour, which they seemed to desire, without putting them off with hope of doing it some time after, because they were then still young, that I knew Apollonius, Rusticus, Maximus, that I received clear and frequent impressions about living according to nature, and what kind of a life that is, so that, so far as depends on the gods and their gifts and help and inspirations, nothing hindered me from forthwith living according to nature, though I still fall short of it through my own fault, and through not observing the admonitions of the gods, and I may almost say their direct instructions, that my body has held out so long in such a kind of life, that I never touched either Benedicta or Theodotus, and that after having fallen into lustful passions, I never did anything of which I needed to repent, that though it was my mother's fate to die young, she spent the last years of her life with me, that whenever I wished to help any man in his need, or on any other occasion, I was never told that I had not the means of doing it, and that I never found myself needing to receive such assistance from another, that I have such a wife, so obedient and so affectionate, and so straightforward, that I had abundance of good tutors for my children, and that the remedies have been shown to me by dreams, both others and against spitting blood and giddiness, and that when I had an inclination to philosophy, I did not fall into the hands of any sophist, and that I did not waste my time on writers of histories, or in resolving logical syllogisms, or occupy myself about the investigation of appearances in the heavens, for all these things require the help of the gods and fortune, among the Quadi at the river Granua. Interesting.
Well, it seems like he's thanking the gods for circumstance largely.
Yeah.
Like these other people, he's thanking for the things they taught him, but he attributes his circumstance to the gods, which is, I don't know, it seems like a distinction there, but I don't know how important that is.
I think it's interesting though too, because whilst he's saying he's blessed with circumstances, and certainly he's been blessed, it would seem, with I think really good teachers and mentors and all of that sort of thing. But I mean, he certainly had some tough situations through his life, and so I mean, it wasn't all roses. And I think the fact that he still considers it good fortune kind of gives you the character of the guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some things in there that are kind of funny, like getting away from his dad's concubine.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is going on there?
Things were weird back then.
Yeah. I'm like, okay. And then he's like, and I waited. I wasn't promiscuous in my youth.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, did not prove my virility before the proper age.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I suppose, yeah, I know because we've read some of this sort of stuff before, and like, the business with like the young men. I don't know. Glaucon had his eyes on some of the virile young men and what have you in the
Yes, I
court and all that
remember
sort of
that.
stuff.
Well,
Yeah,
actually,
yeah,
the
yeah.
previous chapter didn't it? Well, section didn't
His
it say
own
something
father.
about? Yeah, where was it? It was he'd
His
overcome
father.
all passion for boys.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, okay,
Um,
so you
my
obviously had issue
translation,
with it.
my
Sorry,
my
Ross.
translation, that line's very different in my one. It says he putting a stop to homosexual love of young men. I mean,
oh,
it
there
means
you
There
go.
you
it's a bit more blunt.
Hmm.
go. Well, obviously Marcus wasn't a fan, because he
Yeah.
calls it out as like that's a good thing that he didn't do that, and I didn't do that as a young fella.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah, interesting.
absolutely. Hmm.
All right, well, gentlemen, that is book one. So we've got some insight into the men and women that made up the man.
Yeah, it makes sense to have that as one.
Yeah, I think so. And there's already some gold that we've got out of there too, which is good. I think this is an excellent book for young blokes to read. To be honest, there's a few people I've given this book to over the years, at least 5 people, I would say.
Yeah.
I think it's just good for them to reflect on some of these ideas and think about, if they were writing this, what would they write down?
Hmm.
It's something I've tried to do to a degree. I have started writing a memoir sort of thing where I'm trying to write down like the top 10 events of my life before 40, just key events, and sort of reflecting on those. Obviously, like getting married is one of them, and just like writing half a page to a page about it. So maybe one day I'll hand that to my kids once it's finished, so they've got insight into those events for me and what that meant for me and how it shaped me, if they have questions about me later if I'm not around. So
I think it's a
I
good
think
idea.
it'd be valuable for yourself though too. You know what I mean? Because it's uh, it's funny how things get muddy with time, and something could be like feel pretty life changing at the time, and just a decade goes by, and maybe the message gets a bit softer, and it's good to collect your thoughts. I haven't had the discipline to sort of journal or anything like that, and it's something I'd like to have a crack at. Yeah, just haven't actually committed to doing
I
it.
can't recommend it enough, and I don't know why. You got no excuse because you've got a remarkable too, like I do, and
Yep.
it's such a good thing to do it on.
Hmm.
Um,
You
but
have
I
a
don't
what?
do it like Dear Diary. I do it like a dialogue to my inner spirit, and I talk to
Yeah.
myself through it, which is a bit weird, but it works well.
What was that
Hmm.
thing you said you have? That's the tablet thing, is it?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
remarkable too. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think my journal in that is up to about 130 pages
Dang, that's good.
already, and I only got that device like a year ago. In fact, it'd be
Hmm.
exactly a year ago. So, what's that? An average of a page every 3 days?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I've had a go. I don't think I've even been able to maintain a like a travel journal, like when you've been on a trip or something, and you want to kind of like record what happens. I haven't even been good enough to do that.
We all did that. Actually, that can be our pub's journey. Here we go. Here's our pub for lots of us logo. Oh, we'll put the jingle here. Here we go. I'll put a Socrates comic up just to remind me where to put that picture. Alright, so journaling. This is our topic. So we did go to Europe a few years ago, my wife and I with our 2 kids, and we all took a journal. And what we found was we were all adequately journaling, I would say, at least doing it 2 to 3 times a week, until the last 10 days. Because in the last 10 days, man, we did some stuff. It was mental. I don't think we stayed anywhere for more than one night, except maybe once. So that sort of just didn't happen. We went to Disneyland Paris and Abu Dhabi on a stopover, 20-hour stopover flight. Like, just, it was just a blur. And so I remember getting back and going, I need to write now. Write some things down before I forget, because those days were huge. I think when we did Disneyland, the kids hit some ridiculous step count. I feel like it was 28,000 steps in a day. And they were broken. I've never seen my children as tired as they were at the end of Disneyland Day. They were just shattered. So, but it's a good thing. And as I said, I've done it for the last year in my Remarkable too. But before that, I was doing it in notepads. I think I've got, I reckon maybe 4 diary-size, half-inch thick notepads full of journals from the last 5 or 6 years.
Oh, you'll laugh here, Tim, but I literally have in my desk drawer a diary from 1995 where I journaled my exchange student trip to Japan.
Nice.
That's probably the last time I actually journaled. Suffice to say, it's still sitting in my top drawer in my desk here. But,
So that means the operating system on computers would have been Windows 95.
Mate, if we had an up-to-date thing, I have a feeling I might have been still on Word Perfect at that point in time, mate.
Windows 3.0.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So that would have been dial-up at best, right? Dial-up internet.
Oh, was that? It was probably. Yeah, it might have been that year we got dial-up. I reckon. Yeah.
Yeah. Running at 128 kilobytes
14.4?
a second.
Right. It was
Wow.
the heady days. Heady days.
Yeah, and you image, like, I remember trying to look up pictures of Michael Jordan, and
Yeah,
it would
it'd
take
be like
2
loading the
minutes
image.
for that photo to load.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like watching a dot matrix printer on your screen.
Yeah.
So many people wouldn't know what that is. I got my kids to watch Spaceballs not that long ago, and there's a joke in there about the robot being called Dot Matrix, and the kids just didn't hear it, didn't see it. They had no idea that that was a joke. And I'm sitting there laughing. They're like, "Why are you laughing at that?" I'm like, "All right, I'm going to pause it to show how old I am." So, yeah. How about you, Rubes? Have you had any luck journaling?
No. It's actually something I've always thought about doing, but never actually started. But what I do have is just in notes on my phone, going back years now. I don't even know how long. Just collections of quotes and thoughts and questions, which not quite journaling, but that's the closest I've ever come.
Well, you could
It's
use
not
it in
bad.
your
That gives
memoirs.
you a bit of an idea of your
Well,
headspace.
Sorry, say again?
It just gives you a good idea about the headspace at the time.
Yeah, I occasionally go back and read through it. I've gone as far as categorizing some of the thoughts. Like, I'm just looking at it now. I've got them categorized into philosophy, politics, and things like that. Just
Nice.
sort of roughly categorized. But yeah, that's not quite journaling, but that's the closest I've ever come.
I'd say that's a form of journal. You've written down thoughts. You're just breaking it down into subjects, but they could still be helpful for reflection and to see where you've come from.
It actually is, and it's good because you can do a search on it.
Yeah, that's true.
And here we go, 2018. So I've been doing it since 2018. There you go.
Nice. Well, very good. Gentlemen, it has been a pleasure. It's been an hour and 5 minutes. I'm about to finish my beer. So let's call it a night, and next time we'll go on to book 2, and this is where the magnificence of this book truly begins. It is just a wonderful book. So I look forward to you guys reading it with me. And for those of you listening at home, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time at the Republic of Middle-Aged Men. Good night, gents.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Cheers.